Welcome to the Sport Exchange with me, John Robbie. Hi guys, it's John Robbie here. Welcome to the Sport Exchange podcast where we meet celebrities and personalities from different sports. We hear their stories, the good, the bad and the ugly, and learn how they deal with the transition from playing to enjoying the rest of their lives. Each week I'll discuss my most recent article and we hope to have a lot of fun. Enjoy. Today we welcome to the Sport Exchange podcast the first South African cricket captain to win a World Cup, the Under-19s in 2014. Welcome, Aiden Markram. Aiden, thanks very much indeed for coming in.
No problem, John. Thanks for having me.
Tell us about Prakash. Where did that come from?
Prakash?
Nickname.
Sure. Quite a tough one, really. I don't know.
You're kidding.
It's just sort of straight off the senior players and sort of just stuck, and it's no
I assumed there must have been an Indian or Pakistani player that you resembled or something like that.
I've never questioned it. Being a young sort of quiet guy, I've always just gone with it.
I'm totally amazed. Before we started chatting, we just mentioned that England performance last night, hammering the Australians, scoring over 480. What was your reaction to that?
Incredible, isn't it? Sure, chatting off air, it was, you sort of turn the TV on nowadays and it's see a side scoring at 8 runs and over and you think it's completely normal. And then eventually they get to 400 and they can almost touch 500 and then you really sort of realize the sort of how great of an innings it's been. So, I mean, the way cricket's going nowadays, it's scary. I don't think 500's too far away, which is a scary thought because it's at 10s for the whole innings. But I mean, great to watch, obviously a great wicket, and to see some of the shots those guys can pull off is incredible.
Unbelievable stuff. We mentioned the World Cup win, the Under-19s. When you think back to Dubai, I mean, what are your feelings? You must get a wonderful, warm, fuzzy feeling.
Definitely, I tell you, John, it's one of the only things that sort of felt like it happened yesterday. The memories are so clear, and it's something I'd absolutely love to sort of relive. Sort of in terms of a personality side of things, and growing up, I would have probably gone about it differently, as weird as it sounds. But super great feelings to think about that. Even though it's an age group sort of event, still proud of how and what we achieved. It was a great month.
Absolutely. And I was amazed that you weren't actually the captain of the side. When you went on the competition pre-World Cup, you didn't captain the side. Tell us about that. And in fact, you hadn't scored runs in the pre-tournament phase. Tell us how it came about you given the captaincy.
Sure. Well, I'll take you back even prior to that sort of series before the World Cup. I'd never sort of played age cricket, provincial age cricket from high school. So I left boys high and went to Tuks Academy. And all the under-19 sides had been selected for, the Coke weeks and the Cubs weeks and those sort of things. And I wasn't part of it, and rightly so, because I didn't score runs when I needed to. So I was on sort of matric vacation, as matrics go when you don't play cricket. And got a phone call there from Ray Jennings saying, you need to... where are you, what you're doing, and you need to be at a camp in 3 months' time. So I thought, this is like a prank or something, and one of my mates have got a hold of me. Because a lot of my mates are friends with Keaton.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's Ray's
Keaton
son.
Jennings,
yes, yeah. Anyway, to cut a long story short, it was the next thing, found myself at a camp. Somehow made the side that toured to India, playing against India and Australia, and didn't score any runs. And then was somehow named captain, and it was just a sort of a gut feeling that Ray had. I know he's very strong about his gut feelings. Looking in hindsight, you need to give him a lot of credit for how he's sort of changed careers, and I think mine's probably straight up there with as much as he's changed.
Controversial guy. A lot of people don't like him. I like Ray Jennings. A lot of people don't like him. What was he like as a coach? What was his secret?
Look, I think sort of prior to our year, I'd heard stories where he's a hard guy, and he expects a lot from his players, but I never got the sense that it was unrealistic ever. It was always bringing the best out of players. And some players he needed to break down before he could build up, and that's how he went about it. And I think that's sort of that's what worked so well for our World Cup. We had a lot of, the Rabadas of the world and stuff, and Ray obviously was not scared to take them on. And I think it was the first time a lot of these young players had been taken on in their career. And
they'd been stars at school and youth level, yeah.
And it was sort of a wake-up call for all of them, including myself to an extent. And you sort of realize that this is sort of real now. You know, you're pretty much out of school, and it's not going to be as smooth sailing as it was in school. And the players who react well ended up being picked. And I think it's sort of, that's how Ray sums up sort of character and who he wants to sort of take to war. That's what he always called it. So, I mean, as controversial as some people sort of say he was, I still thought he found a way to always get out the best of his players. Funny story, Corbin Bosch, he was man of the match in the final. I must remember now, before the final itself, was late for training or something, and Ray got this sort of idea that he was very lazy and not quite there sort of mentally, and had a full go at Corbin. Then Ray sat me down and said, being captain, I have to go tell Corbin, who was one of my best mates, still is, he's not playing the final, even though he was sort of been out one of our best bowlers along with KG. And this just broke down in tears, obviously, as anyone would. And that was his whole process of sort of breaking him down and getting that sort of the fire in the belly again. Next day at training session, you've not seen anything like Corbin, how he bowled. Incredible. And then straight after that, Ray went to him and said, "You're always going to play the final, don't worry." So the day before.
Lord, that is scary, eh?
So, I mean, I think...
And you didn't know that he was always going to play? You thought you were telling him he was dropped?
I knew he was going to play, but I had to go tell him he's not playing, and I had to go tell it with like a straight face. And
how did you feel?
It's not nice to see how people sort of, to break someone down like that. I've never sort of enjoyed it, but I mean, it's something that's got to happen, I suppose. And to see how he bounced back, and that's where I say what Ray sort of got out of him to get him to his best. Because everything was hunky-dory before that. We had a great World Cup.
Yeah.
We hadn't quite been challenged just yet, and I think it was a kick up the butt for Corbin, but I think it rubbed off on a lot of players as well.
Tell us, I remember watching that on television and seeing Kagiso Rabada. In fact, I think I gave him his first ever interview on 702 afterwards. And to see everybody else bowling, obviously before physical development at 125, maybe, and then to see this young kid bowling effortlessly at 140. What was it like having him and captaining him?
Look, just from a sort of cricket perspective, he's just such an athlete. I mean, even if you watch him go about his work now, it's like you say, it's effortless. Obviously, very nice to have him in your attack, to throw him the ball whenever you need something to happen, and being KG, whenever you do throw him the ball, something tends to happen. It just shows what a sort of special talent he is. But it's not all his talents. I think not a lot of people see how hard he works and how hard he worked then, even though he was one of the biggest talk of the town at the time. He was still putting in hard yards and things like that. So great to be able to captain him. Obviously, he's got that very strong personality, very confident guy, and he always backs it up somehow. So he finds a way around everything, and it's a good little trait to have, I believe.
Tell us about captaincy, because I once asked Ali Bacha, captain's born, and he said yes. I mean, here was you not playing particularly well. You're given the captaincy, then 200s, a 50 in the final, etc. Do you thrive on it?
I really enjoy it. I'm that type of person where if things don't go well, I really feel like it's completely my fault in terms of when I'm captaining. So that sort of gets my hunger going, to not have that feeling and to make sure the team wins the game at the end of the day, because I feel like solely responsible for it. And I think it's nice. I mean, at times I might put too much pressure on
Well, that was going to be my question. What happens if you're a captain and you're not performing? I mean, I look at Faf, who's gone through some bad trots, and yet it doesn't seem to affect his captaincy or his standing. I mean, surely there's a side that has to take away the captaincy from it, like a goal kicker in rugby. You know, you almost have to divorce yourself from the kicking aspect of it.
That's exactly it. And if I always keep my eye on Faf, because I believe he's such a great leader. And to see how he goes about it is, I've already taken, in the short space of time I've been involved with the Proteas, I've taken so much just from how he goes about things. So, I mean, you're right, you need to divorce yourself sort of from captaincy and for me to batting. Obviously, I had a tough India series quite recently. I
was going to ask you, when they threw you the ball against Bangladesh and then on to India, captaining some of the legends, that must have been intimidating.
Very intimidating, but the senior players reacted so well to it, so a lot of credit has to go to them. But just for myself, I mean, if I could go back and change it, the first thing I would do is like what you said now, sort of divorce the two, I was so focused on captaining and trying to captain well that I completely forgot to bat, not using it as an excuse. Just in terms of a learning curve, that's exactly what I'd do if there were to be a next time. So, I mean, we continue to learn, and just watching senior players and guys like Faf, it helps a lot.
Tell us about going out to toss with Virat Kohli. I mean, you must have wanted to get his autograph, no disrespect.
100%. Obviously, Virat's the type of guy who plays the game really, really hard. But once you get to know him and mingle with him, he's actually a very nice guy. So, I mean, like you say, I was pretty gobsmacked and starstruck at the toss. But eventually you sort of realize that he's kind of your enemy and you need to find a way to take him down. It was very difficult, I tell you, because he is and still is in the form of his life. But yeah, super cool experience.
You talked about Ray Jennings, and that, I mean, that was, I'm still gobsmacked at the way he treated Corbin, you know, and leaving him for a day thinking he wasn't going to play, all part of a thing. I think one of the things that's come out recently is just how nasty cricket can be. I mean, it's got this reputation of being a gentleman's game, and obviously the recent series against Australia. How nasty is cricket?
Yeah, I mean, sure. I've always played it where it's been pretty all right. Obviously, there's a lot of competitive sort of energy flowing on the field, and guys have competitive edges and some sort of test the boundaries. But I've never quite seen it like it was in the Australia Test match or Test series.
Well, give us an idea, because you were a target, weren't you? A particular target of Warner. Tell us what happened when you came out to bat. I mean, is that when it starts?
Yeah, straight there and there. And
what was said? And don't pull any punches.
Yeah, obviously there's swear words that are involved. Yeah. But I mean, it's nowadays sad to say swearing's almost a part of language. But yeah, not.
Well, let's say it. You're walking out. Talk us through. You're walking out with Dean Elgar to bat against Australia. Tell us what happens exactly.
So
remember, we've never been there.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I must. In terms of a bit of credit to the Australians, it was never really too personal from my side. I was always the new guy on the side, so it was always like, to say the right words, don't mess it up, don't mess up your chance. Never live in, or you're going to live in like AB's shadow for the rest of your life, and those sort of small chat really. Yeah. Nothing too personal.
But they're basically saying, don't mess it up. You're living in AB's shadow. They're trying to make you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, and I mean, being the new guy, it's completely understandable. There's a few times where they said, I don't know if I can say it.
Please,
really, but
say it.
It's like, if AB, obviously AB being AB is one of the best in the world. And then it would be like between Dean and I, who could get out first to go sit next to AB, and let's call it please AB. If you know what I'm saying. So, I mean, some of this stuff was petty and...
And do you say anything back?
I've never been a guy who spoke back, no.
Do others?
Yes, yeah. Quite a few guys get stuck in. I mean, Dean... Not generally when you bat do guys get stuck in, but I mean, your next time to field, then you remember what's been said and then you dish it out yourself sort of thing. But I've sort of just been go with the flow.
Yeah.
I quite enjoyed it. I mean, the second test in Durban, it's quite a funny thing, actually. Gave in my laundry. I sound like a sport bat. I gave in my laundry and I got it back the morning we were on our way to the field. And I literally opened my laundry at the field, did warm-ups and then got into my whites. But my whites were incredibly creased.
Yes.
Like, yeah, I'm sure you've heard the story.
But tell the story again. I've seen reference to it, but I didn't quite get it, yeah?
And even I was like, it's actually quite embarrassing. But I don't have an alternative yet.
Yeah.
This is my only pair of whites I've got to wear them. No one's going to have an iron here at the stadium. We don't have enough time, so... pads on, go out and bat, and that was like obviously just was pure bait for the Australians.
So what did they say?
Just like, have no respect for the game. How can you look like you do? Absolutely, like, because it was so, the clothes were so crinkled, to be fair.
Yeah.
And they don't stop about it. Like, that's the thing. I think
it's hour not really, after hour, ball after ball, over after over.
It's not really what they say. It's just that it just keeps coming. The longer you bat, almost the more you get. And generally, it works opposite. Like, the longer you bat, it quietens down a bit.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, where guys get frustrated, really. Because it just keeps coming. Doesn't stop. You get out, you hear something. Even when you get out, once you've scored runs, you still hear something. And like I said, it's just a competitive edge, really. And you know how it is. Two strong nations that really want to feel like they... quite macho and whatever.
Where's the line Because after the ball tampering incident, we heard about this line. We overstepped the line. And, you know, as Chris Morris said, the Australians think they set the line, etc. And they've been caught short now and they're having to relook at the whole setup. Where do you think the line is?
Look, anything personal for me is a no-go. I've got no problem with people telling me my clothes are crinkled and I don't respect the game because of how I look. And that's completely fine. But as soon as guys sort of appearance comes into play, families come into play, then it's for me, that's the line.
What about Quinton and wife?
Yes, so that's the line. I believe it's over the line. But was he spurred on? Of course he was, because Quinton actually, to be fair, never speaks on the cricket field. He's a quiet guy, says his information from behind the stumps. Very good knowledge, to be fair. But never get stuck in, really.
Do you talk about it? Because obviously playing the Australians, as you said, they're the world champion sledger. They invented it, and it was Steve Waugh was the one who took it from humour and made it into a tactical weapon, as you say, to upset people. Did you talk about it? Were you warned about this? Is there a team policy to do with it?
Not really warned about it, but really expected it coming. I think from being an avid cricket lover my whole life, you almost know it's coming, especially being the new guy. And they obviously know if they can get 2 or 3 wickets up front and get stuck into the likes of Hash, AB and Faf early on, that's probably their best chance to win. So they were going to put a lot of pressure on Dean and myself up front. But it was nice, you know, it was a nice battles that I got into. It was completely cricket related. But obviously there were ones like the David Warner and Quinton de Kock ones that were quite harsh.
And afterwards, we know this crossed the line. The socialising afterwards, I mean, we know Virat Kohli said, I don't like the Australians. We don't have a drink with them afterwards. What was it like after the day's play?
Look, I mean, in the same thing with when I was sort of getting abused about my clothes being crinkled like that. It was the first test match, so it didn't help my cause either. And Steve Smith was also all over me about how much of a club cricketer I am and I'll only be a club cricketer. And sort of, what am I doing here? I'm lost, sort of thing. Fairly cricket related. Then I thought to myself, I actually went and said to the guys, there's no ways I'm having a beer with these guys afterwards, because it's so petty and it's so annoying, because it goes on and on and on, that I just have no urge to go and mingle, even though he's pretty much one of the best players in the world, Steve Smith. I have no interest in going to sit next to him and having a beer. I'd rather just sit in my change room, they can have their beers, and then we'll chat after. But eventually, I think it's also a bit of sort of immaturity to test match cricket. You end up sort of respecting things like that, because it almost shows how much he wants to win. And eventually, the more the series went on, I realized, you know what, I could actually end up mingling with this guy. You watch how he goes about his things. I'd love to know why. You know what I'm saying?
How do you feel about the 3 guys who were involved in the ball tampering? How do you feel about them? Were they just unlucky in that they were the ones who got caught? Because we know even the Sri Lankans now have been in trouble. Or do you feel that to hell with them?
Look, it's in terms of ball tampering nowadays, it is a very grey matter. I mean, guys do everything and anything. Some guys do nothing. You know what I'm saying? So I see it from a side the team really wants to win, and that's why it happens, which doesn't justify.
Do you think? Sorry, I'm interrupting because I'm so keen on it. Do you think the fact that the series was so nasty in terms of sledging and so personal, that increased the desire to win for the Australians, that they pushed that line?
Most definitely, because you don't want to sort of walk the talk and then you can't back it up. And the first thing you want to do is make sure you can get one up on it. You know what I'm saying? It's a big sort of boost for a team, especially once, because it's so heated. You know what I'm saying? For it to be so heated, so many emotions like sky high, to get the win on top of that is just like the cherry on top. And that's probably why it got to the extent that it did. I think, it was probably thrown to the young guy in Cameron Bancroft. I see him and myself sort of in the same sort of stages in our career. And you're not going to say no. I'm not going to say no to a guy like AB. Let's say, for example, if
has anyone ever asked you to do anything?
Not at all, no. Like if AB comes to me and says, you need to do it. So now this is maybe what happens at Bancroft. That's what I'm assuming. So one of the senior players went to me and said, just try to find a way. I don't want to know of it. No one needs to know of it. You just do it yourself. And maybe that's just how I got caught.
Does everybody know what is legal and what is not legal? But at this stage, you get to Test cricket or first line. Does everybody know where the line is?
In terms of ball tampering, I don't think so.
Really?
Yeah. Obviously, you cannot use
an outside object
or anything like that. That's obviously no-go. But it's very grey in terms of guys always have chewing gum. They're always chewing on chewing gums. They're always having energy sweets.
Saliva, sugar.
It's not to say you're putting it on the ball, but if you've got one in your pocket, are you?
Yeah.
Because you might get the ball every 5 balls and give it a shine, but you've had a sweet in your mouth 2 overs before. Yeah. Could that affect your saliva or whatever it might be?
Sounds like they need to sort it out. Do you know when you're batting and suddenly the ball starts reversing Irish? I mean, do you know that something is up with the ball?
I've never faced reverse swing like I did in that series, ever. Not and franchise cricket, it gets heated. South Africans being South Africans, it gets heated. And to me, it was like super foreign. I was like, this is exaggerated. And the guys are like, yeah, it's probably happening, but we don't know how, and we can't catch them. We need proof, whatever. Because I mean,
do you speak to umpires? Do you say to the umpires, "Have a look at the ball, ump"?
I don't, but I get the message to senior players because I think it sort of will be more influential if a guy like Fafo Abe goes to the umpire and says, look at this ball, it's ridiculous now. I've never seen it reverse like that. Whereas if I go to him and say, sorry, this ball's really reversing, I've never seen this before, he's going to be like, well, you are only 3 test matches into your career, sort of vibe.
Yeah.
But it's definitely, it's an ongoing thing the whole time. Can you check this ball? This is ridiculous now.
And now, of course, we got the TV cameraman involved as well, checking everything.
And it's going to happen more and more now.
Yeah, well, I think it's clear from what we've learnt over the last couple of weeks that something hasn't been done. Talk us through an over. You're opening the batting against Australia, England, India, whatever. Talk us through the 6 balls. What goes through your mind when you go out there, you're taking strike, etc. The beginning of a test match, Newlands is packed or Eden Gardens is even more packed. Yeah. Tell us what goes through your mind and what is your thought process about looking at the ball, about seeing what's happening, looking at the field. Yeah. Take us inside test cricket as an opener.
So it starts at warm-up. It starts. You obviously have a stroll over to the pitch and you, in your own mind, assess how it's roughly going to play. You don't know as opening batter. That's the toughest part of opening, is you're not sure what's going to happen. But from there, from speaking to the groundsman, from speaking to a senior player, you get sort of feedback as to you're 90% sure it's going to play like this. And from there, you go into your game plan. We've obviously got set game plans for different conditions. So you get out to the middle, ask for my guard changes depending on conditions. So you ask for your guard, I ask for off stump to get into the channel. And you face the ball, not sure what it's going to do, not sure if it's going to swing, not sure how much bounce it's going to be, not sure the pace. And then immediately after 1 or 2 balls, I walk down to Dean.
Let me interrupt. Do you sort of say to yourself, because we keep hearing from the commentators the importance of leaving.
Yes.
Yeah. So you saying, I'm going to leave whenever I possibly can, but obviously I know where my off stump is. Yes, yeah. So therefore, I mean, are you more inclined to leave early on? Are you hoping to get balls to leave early on?
You hope to get balls, most definitely. Especially being on off stump, I feel fairly comfortable leaving. But that's South African conditions. We're going to subcontinent now. It's definitely going to change. But the whole thing I say to myself the whole time is look to score. Because I feel when I look to score, and quite a few players are the same, when you look to score, you move better, you get into better positions. I'm not saying now to chase the wide run, but just that sharpness is better. Whereas when it's got like just look to leave or keep it out, I don't think the movements are as sharp as they should be. For me, it's definitely not the case. So that's sort of, I'm always looking to score, and then when a bowler's running up, it's just a matter of head as still as it can be and just watch.
And are you looking at the ball? I mean, not the opening over, obviously, because the ball is new, but I mean, tell us about looking at the shine, looking at the seam, looking at the hand.
When it starts reversing, it's massive. I try watch it from when it leaves the mid-off, who throws the ball to the bowler. I just try, but they don't give you much. They always turn their back to you. But I try. I mean, it's any sort of 1% of that could help. So it starts there already. Whereas when it's new ball stuff, I don't look for anything like that. When the bowler starts running up, I switch on. But sometimes when it's reversing, especially like it was in a guy like Mitchell Stark is bowling. I mean, he's world quality bowler with a ball that doesn't swing. Imagine him with a ball that's reverse swinging.
How do you look at the ball when someone's bowling at 145?
Yeah, it's tough. But when he's running in, you try to look for anything in his hand that could sort of help you. But really, they don't give much away. So from there, it needs to be such a clear plan. And you expect one ball and you play for that ball, and then you back yourself to get out of jail if it's the other one. Because 80% of the time it's like Mitchell Stark swinging it away from the right-hander from around the wickets. And then the one that doesn't swing, you just back yourself to get outside the line to not get LBW and get some form of bat on it if needs be.
And it must be almost automatic because you've had so many nets, so many lessons, you've had so many years playing the game. It becomes presumably just a mental thing that you're almost reacting as you've done before.
Definitely. Sort of always obviously trying to remain one step ahead. But having said that, at the end of the day, it's just you and the ball. So you don't have too many ideas in your head as well, because that can also do harm.
And you set targets, like I again hear the commentators saying you set yourself 10, then you set yourself 20, then you set a partnership, maybe you and Dean Elgar, for example.
Look, I've never really been a guy who does, but the one thing I've done recently is I set targets in terms of time. So I go, next hour for me is massive. And then I just focus on the hour. If I feel like it's taking long, I go, okay, let's break it down. Next 15 minutes. Just get through the next 15 minutes. Let's call it 4 overs are done. If it's a intense, heated spell, 2 overs from each end. They'll probably leave them with another 2 or 3 from each end. So you're halfway through that spell. And once you get through that spell, half an hour later, your hour's almost done. So I'll just set time goals. I try bat for 3 sessions at the very least. And I think generally with the approach, like I've just told you, with the look to score the whole time, your runs will come here and there. And sometimes you sit on 40 and you get stuck on 40 for 6, 7, 8 overs. But then the 8 overs later, you get that 3 bad balls in a row and you somehow get yourself to 50. And you're like, sure, that happened quickly.
Well, what do you feel like when you've got your 50? I mean, that takes a massive amount of pressure off, doesn't it? And yet a lot of people get out on 50 and you almost feel, hang on a second, they got slack. Tell us your process.
It's very relieving, I feel, as an opening batter. Because it's almost, I feel, well, we are responsible for setting the innings up. So we get out early, we get out on 20 or 30. It's actually, it's trouble. Because if one guy gets a good ball, the other guy gets himself out on 20 or 30, and you look at the score and you're like 42. And that's not an ideal position, because we know in cricket, if you add 2 wickets on,
that's right, you
might end up 50 or 60 for 4, and then you're really staring down the barrel. So a 50 for me is like really satisfying in terms of the foundation I'm setting for the side. So that for me, it means a lot. It almost means a bit more than 100, because I know the team is now in a fairly sound position. The hundreds and things like that obviously makes the team in a great position, but generally there's a bit more personal satisfaction about it. But the 50 for me is complete satisfaction just for the team, because I know roughly if I'm on 50 at one end, there's probably another 50 or so at the other end, and we around 100, and I'm still generally we're in a fairly good position. So a lot of it is putting the team into a good position for me.
Yeah. And Dean Elgar, obviously the two of you are a marvellous partnership, and yet you're very, very different. Tell us what you say to each other.
Look, I've learned so much from Dean in this sort of start. One thing I'm trying to nail is sort of his determination and his fight. It's absolutely incredible to watch him bat at the other end. So that's I'm really sponging off of him for like help in terms of that.
Is he generous? Does he give you advice?
Yes, he's brilliant. Yeah. But we don't chat too much about. There's not a lot of technical things we chat to each other about. I think because we are fairly different players. But the one thing we do pick up with each other is like we know each other's checkpoints really well. So I might have a checkpoint for me that if I know I'm doing this checkpoint fairly well, it means I'm playing well. And he just reminds me of that checkpoint the whole time, and vice versa.
Because I suppose he's the best person to observe you at the other end, and vice versa.
So I don't trigger, but for an example, a guy who triggers, the non-striker can easily pick up whether or not he's triggering too late. And if you trigger too late, you're in heaps of trouble.
Explain trigger. That's the movement, pressing the bat or something like that,
the little shuffle before the ball's bowled sort of thing. So I don't have one, but 90% of players do.
Why don't you have one?
I want to, like I said to you, I just want to keep my head as still as I can. So I feel if I'm moving prior, your head ends up moving as well. So my whole thought is, and it's as cliche as it sounds, is if my head is dead still, it's giving my eyes the best chance to pick up the ball.
Fantastic.
So that's just my sort of, but everyone's different. Guys trigger really early and then they are still dead still. But for me, I just want to minimize everything.
What is it like getting hit? I mean, getting hit by a fast bowler, because clearly you know a guy is in pain, and yet clearly it's an unwritten law that you try not to show it. How sore is it when you get one in the ribs?
I tell you, in a game it's not too bad because of all the adrenaline. For me, it's almost like a thing as I'd rather get hit countless times than get out.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's almost like it's fine. You've got through another ball, so there's a bit of satisfaction to it as well. But it's obviously never nice. It does hurt. I remember in the Australia series now, I got hit twice on my forearm here, and as big as anyone is in this world, the biggest pieces of this world, no one has sort of protection over that bone, bone like that. So that, I mean, it's incredibly painful the once, and it's. I mean, I went down. The physio had to come on, and it was incredibly sore.
And what are the Australians saying? Do they say anything, or do they just?
Yeah, they say, "Come, get up, get on with it." It's never like, "Are you okay?"
Really?
Make no mistake.
Gee,
but make no mistake, we don't do that either.
Yeah,
we don't go to unless it's near the head or like a really dangerous area. You didn't go ask, and so you're right.
When did you? I mean, obviously you win the World Cup, and yet here you're at the Tux Academy, etc.
Yeah.
Did you always know you wanted to be a professional cricketer, or was there a side of you that said, maybe professional sport is not for me, maybe I must do something else? I can play and enjoy my cricket, but to be a full-time professional, which is hardcore. People forget being a professional sportsman is perhaps the toughest career anytime. Was there always that desire, or did you make a conscious decision?
I've always wanted to be a professional cricketer, like from as long back as way back as I can remember. But when I didn't make provincial sides in matric, I almost was like, you make peace with it. You're like, only very few get to make it. And it's not me, but that's completely okay. I'm going to do Tux Cricket Academy for a year, which is it's a gap year. And you just play cricket every day of the year. And then you realize, in that time, you'll realize whether or not you have it. You'll mix with the right people, and they'll be able to give you feedback, and you'll work it out yourself. So I said, I'm going to give myself that year, that Tux Cricket Academy year. And from there, I'll determine whether or not I'm going to pursue it. But I was leaning towards I'm studying, like head on. I'm going to work out now what I'm going to study, and that's what I'm definitely going to nail. Because you almost like being young and naive, you feel like you need to make the go quick side. You know what I'm saying? You feel like you need to, but at the end of the day, I personally believe it doesn't mean much. And I can probably say it because it's quite biased, but I honestly don't believe it means a lot in a player's career.
If you hadn't gone cricket, let's say that Tux Academy year, you said this is not for me, what do you think you'd be doing now?
So there's two things I enjoy outside of cricket. So any form of marketing. I like mingling with people, not being too involved in the office the whole time, sort of getting out there, mingling, planning.
Sales,
events,
marketing, yeah.
Or I'd be in the bush. But I'd probably lean towards the marketing side because I think I'd end up missing what I'm used to, normal life, sort of city life. But I thoroughly enjoy the bush as well.
Have you been out with Mark Boucher?
I haven't yet, no.
Yeah. What's he like? Because he, in a funny sort of a way, maybe it's wicket keepers, he reminds me a bit of Ray Jennings.
Brilliant, I tell you what. And it's spot on with what you say, that sort of hard approach. But in terms of growing as a player, it's incredible. A lot of the franchise players around the country now are literally just saying, I just want to get to Titans, and it doesn't matter if I don't make the team. I just want to be involved with the training sessions because the feedback from the Titans players to the rest is just like it's chalk and cheese.
Is it organised? Is it short? Is it intense? What makes it so good?
Extremely organised, but I reckon all the franchise training is organised. But in terms of the intensity, that's sort of, it's demanded. You know what I'm saying? It's you required to have that intensity. If you don't, you get found out. And that's where Boucher is really good. He obviously understands the intensity that's required at test match level, and that's the intensity that we train at. And of course,
he gives no credit to test players. Presumably, he gives you just as hard a time as the franchise players.
There's no. I'm gonna. Even for a guy like AB, for example.
Yeah.
But AB loves doing things like that. He loves getting stuck in at high intensity, but he wouldn't have let a guy like AB just come back down. Oh, I'm just going to go to Titans and just hit a few balls and then go. If he's going to train with us, he's going to get stuck in with us. And then if he really needs to do something low key, he can let Bouch know on his own, and him and Bouch could go do it separately, but away from the team space, so it doesn't affect the team's training and the intensity level of the team. So I tell you what, he's got it nailed. Because he's an honest guy as well as a hard guy. What he says, you believe. and he's very honest.
And what about Otis? Tell us about Otis. I'm a great Otis Gibson fan. I noticed when he came in, you could just see something different. And yet, West Indian, laid back, fun, whatever. Tell us about him.
That's exactly it. Sort of very laid back and stuff, and the typical West Indian traits. But I think where he's got the edge is players know exactly what's expected of them. So as laid back as he is and what you might think he is, he still demands a lot at training, which is vital. Because obviously, like Hash said it to me once, is and it's quite obvious because everyone says it, but if you train and it's harder at training than what it is in a game it's going to feel a little bit easier, and you're going to be more accustomed to it. It's not going to feel like, sure, do I belong at this level? It's going to be like, I'm used to this now. You know what I'm saying? It's actually not so bad.
The game is fun. Training is hard.
Yeah. And I think Usain Bolt said it as well, didn't he?
Yeah,
so when
absolutely.
It gets to competition time, that's the fun part.
Absolutely.
Because everything in the build-up to it is tough.
What was it like playing in Bolton?
Bolton was great.
It was club cricket, eh?
Club cricket in Bolton. Bolton League.
Ebag Gum up north, sup up lad, trouble at Mill. It just seems so miles away. And this, it wasn't too long ago. So 1 minute you're playing sort of almost test cricket or test cricket. Next minute you're playing at Bolton. Why did you do that?
Well, firstly, I had nothing to do in the off season.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll chat about the studying just now. But I had stopped studying. And I had nothing to do. And I thought, well, it's a great experience a great opportunity to go experience English conditions. Because you cannot simulate those conditions. And I stick to it because of what I just went through at Durham.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a moment as well.
You absolutely cannot simulate those conditions. Yeah. You have to expose yourself to them to try and understand what it's all about. So that's why I did it. For me, and it was nice to get out the house, to stay on my own, everything done on my own, get around from A to B, everything I had to do. And it's a good part of growing up, I felt, as well.
And Durham, you've been there now, and you got off to a disastrous start. I think you got 3 ducks in a row.
3 in a row, yeah.
Talk us through them. Talk us through the ducks.
First game we played Kent, cracking day, sun's out. I'm like, sure, this can't be that bad. Looked at the wicket, didn't have that super green tinge to it. It actually had a fairly brown sort of look, and I was like, I might have got out of jail here. First innings this is what you want, like sun shining, wicket looks good. And obviously the tosses there are uncontested, so the visiting side sort of chooses, and Ken chose to bowl, and they had Matt Henry in their side. The New Zealand
I see. They've done away with the toss.
Done away with
I
the
didn't
toss.
realize that's so nobody can prepare wickets, etc.
Wickets,
okay.
Yeah. And first innings got a good ball from Matt Henry, dragged back LBW. And then second innings, which was the same day, so they had bowled us out. We had bowled them out, and we had like 7 overs to get through at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And about 3 overs in was still not off the mark. But I felt like it was okay. I was moving all right. I didn't feel too exposed. And he bowled me a leg stump off volley, and I just hit it straight to mid-wicket. One of those you just hit it out the middle, but straight to the fielder. So I was walking off, and that was the first time I'd ever sort of batted twice in a day, gotten out twice in a day, got a pair. Like there was a lot of firsts. And then next week, so obviously that game.
What did the players say? You're this star from overseas.
That was my issue.
Yeah. Do you apologize? Do you say nothing?
You're so stressed about what they think, because now you really just want to do well, but it's obviously not gone well. But they were all right. They took it well, and they all said like, no man, everyone that comes over struggles their first few times, and I was like, okay, it helps a bit. Next week went to Northants, washed out, cold, freezing, wet. So it had been 2 weeks, and I still hadn't been off the mark yet. Played Leicestershire at home the next week, exactly the same conditions as when we played Kent, and I said, no, it can't be that bad. Spend time in the middle, it can't be that bad. And I got the exact same ball Matt Henry did me with in the first innings of England. But this time it bowled me.
Yeah.
So I just remember walking off the field, and now they get good support there at those county games. So there's a lot of the members and stuff like that, and I could just feel them judging me. You know what I'm saying? I can just feel them not happy. And rightly so. Obviously they're loyal to their county, and they want to see their county do well. And that was tough. I drove home that night, and I literally said, I don't know what to do, because I've hit a lot of balls. I've sort of ticked all the
model
boxes.
professional background, and yet you just can't get around. Then you got a 90, did you?
Then that next, in Leicestershire, the second dig, managed to get 90 odd. And that felt like a relief, but I still wasn't all that happy because when you get in like that and you've got 3 ducks behind your name, you really want to go big. You want to go like 150 plus. And then got out. So it was still a case of like just a permanent sort of bitter taste in my mouth. But I mean, it was the experience-wise and what I learned from those conditions. Like I said, you need to expose yourself to them, and I'm glad I did.
Tell us about the studying. You said you gave up the studying. Was that tough? I know that a lot of people we've spoken to have done the same because professional sport, it's almost impossible. And every single person has said they regretted it. Talk us through that.
Yeah, so I don't want to say just yet I've given it up. So I'm
good
2 and a bit years into my BCom sports management degree.
Yeah.
But I want to move over to BCom marketing.
Yeah.
But like you say, I really, the reason I stopped was because it was just too much. It was at the time I'd started in the Titan setup, and that was full time. I was a tuck student, and that was completely full time. And I was torn between the two. I'd get back every day, drained from training, still need to go put in your gym session at some stage in the afternoon, and then somehow pass your test the next morning, and it was just far too much. So I had to think about it, and I must actually give a lot of credit to my parents because they sort of they would never understand how much you go through, but they sort of tried to understand, and they said, just do what you feel is going to give you the best chance in being a cricketer. Give yourself a few years and try and make it as a cricketer, and then from there, if it doesn't work out, you can go back to your degree. So I just didn't have enough time, and I remember sort of calling it, and then it sort of eased a lot in terms of like the pressures that I felt. I felt cricket-wise, I was a lot better because I was a lot more sharp. And look, this is just me. I know there's different people. A guy like Lungi has just finished his degree, and it's absolutely incredible. But I mean, for me, it was just too tough.
Take advice from an old man. Go back and finish it at some stage. In India, you haven't gone yet. Have you put yourself up for auction yet?
I was in the auction last year.
Yeah. How does it feel when you don't get it? Because Chris Morris told us in the most amazing detail the tension and the excitement and the drama of that, and also what it means. If you get taken, it's life-changing. I mean, he described it. And actually, we had tears in our eyes talking about it and so on. What does it feel like when you don't get picked, bought?
So firstly, I mean, I didn't quite expect to get picked. I sort of put my name in the auction with my agent, and we said, if it happens, cool. But we've got counties lined up just in case. Because, I mean, we were 90% sure it wasn't going to happen. But maybe someone takes a punt. And then it didn't happen. But, I mean, you know, I think for a guy like myself, it was fairly okay. Because I didn't have the hopes of... I didn't bank on it either. You know what I'm saying? It would have been just like a bonus. That's sort of the mindset I had about it. But, I mean, if you go to the other side of the spectrum, like what Chris went through, it's, like you say, life-changing.
But it's obviously on your bucket list. You've got to, 100%. From a business perspective as well as an experience perspective.
It changes, like you said, changes your life, sets up your life for a lot more years than what you might expect. So 100% on my bucket list, and obviously the sooner the better. Not only from the, let's call it financial gain and boost you get from it, but I mean, let's say you go to India and Sachin Tendulkar's your batting consultant at Mumbai Indians, for example. I mean, that doesn't get much better than that, does it? So there's a lot of bonuses to it, and the sooner the better. Like I said, I'd love to get involved.
Looking back on your short but incredible career, if you could tell the young Aiden Markram, who's, you know, going off to the World Cup, if you could give him advice, what would it be?
So,
in other words, what would you do differently?
What I would do differently is, from a complete batting perspective, I would have had some form of game plan, as crazy as it sounds. I don't remember having a game plan at all at age group cricket. I just sort of went out to bat, see ball, hit ball, and it worked to an extent. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But in terms of, it's more just an awareness thing. But having said that, I also think that awareness comes with a bit of experience as well. So you do pick it up along the way.
You got to serve your time.
Yeah, to learn about X, Y, and Z. And it's from the most small things to the most influential things that make a difference in whether or not your career will kick on. But that's sort of the thing. I try and make myself a lot more aware to my surroundings. like I still wish now I could go back to matric and redo high school basically, because I have a completely different now, approach to life.
Don't we all?
Because there you're just so narrow-minded. I thought, especially me, I was so narrow-minded.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's like it's such a broad spectrum. The awareness levels are completely different. So that's where it would be. It would just be in terms of cricket-wise and how I lived my life and all those things. I wouldn't have changed a thing.
And do you have a mentor? I mean, because obviously, and you're smart enough to realize you don't want to make the same mistake again. You don't want at the age of 50 to be looking back and saying, at this age, I wish I'd done. Yeah. Do you have a mentor? Do you have somebody who you go to and reveal your innermost thoughts, cricket or life or career or whatever?
So from about the age of 16, there was two guys I always went to. So Alden Smith and Pierre de Bruin, they were both involved at Tuks. And that's when I started getting involved at Tuks. And often, whenever I needed advice or whenever I just didn't know what to do, they'd be the first two I'd get a hold of. Alden more so from a complete technical batting point of view. Pierre from that side as well, but also from a everything else side. So life matter, whatever it might have been. He was my guy I got a hold of. And I was stoked for him when he got the job at Leicestershire. So he moved on and we kind of went different ways, but we always kept in touch. But then I managed to meet guys like the ABs and the FUFs, and ABs are guys who really taken me under his wing. So whenever there's any form of whatever I feel, and it's a nice guy to have, I'm very lucky.
Yeah.
But he's literally the first guy to ask, what's wrong? You don't seem yourself.
Fantastic.
So it's very comfortable to speak to a guy like AB. He's very caring and he wants to know what's happening in your life like that. So, like I said, he's taken me under his wing. So nowadays it's more so I'd get a hold of him. But I've always been quite stubborn with things like that. I've always tried to work things out myself. And it's probably not the greatest thing to have because it might take you an extra however many chances or whatever.
Final question. Are we ever going to win the World Cup?
Yes, we will. Yeah.
Next time?
This 2019 is a very good chance. Obviously, the news of AB was not great, but like we said, we completely respect and understand his decision.
Why do you think this time?
I just feel like there's so much of a bubble that's building for us to win this World Cup that it's actually this time guys are so sick of hearing the chokers word and things like that. It's just going to absolutely motivate them to win the World Cup, to get that monkey off the back or whatever you want to call it. So
fantastic. Well, if you do, we'll get you back in. Thank you very much for talking to us, Aiden, and good luck with your career.
Thank you, John. Thanks for having me.
Wasn't that another fascinating insight into the world of cricket? Thanks as always to Slow in the City for hosting us. Subscribe on iTunes or your favorite podcast app and follow us on social media at TSE Advisory. See you next time. Cheers from John Robbie.